He puts it out of order.
Yeah, okay, it's fine. If
Yeah,
everyone's fine with it the way it is, we'll keep it the way it is.
Do we need a motion on the amended?
We need a motion in a
if
second.
there's, if there's
I
a, if there's a
still had
motion
a
up,
concern about the language about and until such time as a California specific component is developed. I have managed to scroll all the way back through the materials and looked at the CBE recommendation, which I believe is on page um 17, 18 of, or I'm sorry, page 18 of the materials, the staff report. And they did have this second, and
they
until
did.
such time. And so I think, one, we should discuss if anybody has any concerns with that. My concern is just the certainty that I talked about that people need to know. But I don't want to sway others' views on that. But two, I would love to see in the resolve that if we decide to go with that, we specifically say we adopted the CBE's recommendation. I think it's important to show, uniformity if we have uniformity.
Can
I
I,
believe I do.
To be clear, what's going to happen here is we're going to administer the next gen, and then there's going to be a process by which we evaluate how to develop a California specific component that's going to take some number of months or years.
correct. So what Donna and I have talked about is we still have the statutory notice requirements, which is why we cannot immediately have a California component in July 2028 because we do not have enough outline of what it would look like. So what we were doing now in this resolution is saying, yes, we will put a California component in court. We would like to hear from you on what you would like to see there. We will continue to develop it. As soon as it is developed, we get it approved by the appropriate body, CBE, the board, get it back to the court and give the 2-year statutory notification.
I concur with that.
Making an edit, I'll send it to, just give me 1 second.
I do as well, but could we put in somewhere in here the 2-year piece? Because I think that certainty and people understanding that is important, but also that we, as the Board of Trustees, have adopted the CBE recommendation, because then it sounds like we are adopting it.
You capture that in your draft.
I'm working on it, yeah, concurs.
We will have another version shortly.
Can I just ask a question about what's actually transmitted to the Supreme Court? Is it just, it's just these, this?
They'll
Yeah.
work a full petition to the court based off of this. This becomes the historical record of which we'll base the submission to the court on. So,
That's something that's yet to be drafted.
correct. It will get drafted as soon as the decision, or they'll start working on it. I know we've been thinking about it a lot, depending on what way the board decides to go.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to Michelle right now. Michelle, do you have a link? If you give me the link to the document, I could just plug it in. Okay. Okay, Michelle, if you want to.
Do you want to, Elaine, since you constructed, you want to quickly
Sure.
guide us through it?
Yeah, because we're working with few documents, apologies. It's showing up as a red line, but the big change, the main change from the prior version is bolded. In the second resolution, it now reads that the Board of Trustees, having considered the risk-benefit analysis as required by California Rules of Court, concurs with and adopts the Committee of Bar Examiners' recommendation that the next-gen UBE without California-specific component be administered at the bar exam beginning in July 2028 and until such time as California-specific component is developed, and that the recommendation be advanced to the Supreme Court for its approval along with the risk-benefit analysis. And it is further resolved that the Board of Trustees, also in concurrence with Committee of Bar Examiners' recommendation, directs staff to seek direction from the Supreme Court in which subjects and skills should be tested on California-specific component to be added to the next-gen UBE, and whether those subjects are to test California law or laws of general application, and thereafter for staff to develop a California-specific component consistent with that direction to be delivered at the earliest opportunity. And then it's the resolution that you worked on a little bit earlier.
Can you scroll down a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's on. Sure.
Michelle, can you scroll down?
And then all the, Michelle and all the rest after that? Still there?
That's it. That's the last one.
Oh, okay.
The whereases are above.
Okay.
Trustee Huser, after, at the earliest opportunity, did you want to add, what I was hearing is at the earliest opportunity after the appropriate statutory notice is provided?
That's what I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because then it makes clear we're not doing something that's going to happen in the next couple months. So we provide that clarity that virtually everyone asked us to provide. So it would be in the second redlined further resolved, just where it says at the end of it, at the earliest opportunity. No, well,
They're providing the requisite statutory notice.
Did it go under the next further resolve?
I thought it was the next paragraph, but yeah, I think it's in the next paragraph that it goes right at the end. And I think the language suggested is a good
Okay,
one
got it. Mhm.
there.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay, I agree.
Michelle's doing it.
Following,
Michelle's doing
The
got it.
requisite statutory notice.
No, that's
Colleen's
me,
doing it.
that's me.
Oh, sorry.
Following
We're watching you.
following the,
Good. Just technology.
on the record.
Statutory notice.
Requirements.
Yeah, that's good.
Not as fast enough. If we have a
Sorry, I
final,
have to do this, I had it applicable.
we need a motion and a second.
I'll
I'll
move
make
it.
the motion.
Oh, well, I'll second it.
Motion by trustee Huser, second by trustee Giorgello. Roll call vote, please.
Barahona?
Aye.
Buenaventura?
Aye.
Good is absent. Gore?
Aye.
Grande?
Aye.
Harrison?
Aye.
Huser?
Aye.
Giorgello? Is Giorgello present?
Yeah, aye.
Sewell?
I'm an aye.
Stevens?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Cisneros?
Aye.
With 11 ayes and 0 nays, the motion passes.
Congratulations, everyone. And thank you, great gratitude to staff, CBE, and everybody else. Moving on quickly, let's move on to item 6.19. The proposed amendments to Title III, Division 2, Chapter 2 to the State Bar Rules regarding legal specialization areas to add proposed standards for certification and recertification in privacy law, return from public comment, and request for adoption. And Cody, I understand you're going to help us with this, along with Adrian.
Yes, and I think I can get through this very briefly. Just to go back to what steps have been taken that lead us to today at the May 2025 board meeting. The board adopted or established the privacy law specialty area, but directed staff to circulate for public comment the proposed standards that are presented today. Following that 90-day public comment period, CBLS, the California Board of Legal Specialization, reviewed the 4 comments that were received at its December 2025 meeting and approved the proposed standards without modification, which is set forth in Attachment A in the staff report. As a just brief reminder, the standards for all of our legal specialty areas are developed by consulting groups. They're composed of attorney and public members with subject matter expertise, and they generally include the following elements. There's requirements for initial certification regarding task and educational requirements. There's requirements for periodic certification, and then there is a temporary alternative pathway that allows individuals to become certified without an examination for up to 2 years. As I mentioned, we received 4 comments. There's just 2 that I briefly want to spotlight for the board. One commenter recommended that the State Bar adopt the International Association of Privacy Professionals Certified Information Privacy Professional Credential, essentially suggesting that instead of the State Bar taking on this work, it could save time and money by accrediting the IAPP to do this work. And I wanted to just note that CBLS had previously reviewed an application by IAPP and determined that their certification exam and program didn't meet standards, particularly because it didn't sufficiently address California specific law. And it was more of a professional credential available to all privacy professionals, really wasn't targeted for attorneys specifically. And then secondly, and I think most notably, another commenter questioned whether this effort, this proposed specialty area, really addresses the State Bar's public protection mission. And I think regrettably at the May 2025 board meeting, staff didn't fully articulate why this proposal directly supports the State Bar's mission, and I'd just like to briefly address that today. The consulting group that researched and developed the standards identified a number of significant consumer protection concerns within the area of privacy law. Those included issues related to personal data sharing, cybersecurity, emerging technologies. In addition, previously the board directed CBLS to identify potential specialty areas that can improve access to justice. And the State Bar's own 2024 California Justice Gap study found that compromised personal information, a privacy law issue, is in fact among one of the top 3 consumer legal problems that affect California households. So in establishing a privacy law specialty area, we believe, it's staff's belief, that it will in fact help consumers identify attorneys with verified expertise in this very complex and rapidly evolving area of law. So today, the board is asked to adopt the proposed standards for certification and recertification in privacy law in the form that it was circulated for public comment and approved by CBLS in December. And we ask that the board make this effective on January 1, 2027. If adopted, applicants will be able to qualify for certification through that temporary alternative pathway without an examination through December 31st of 2028. And in the interim, staff will develop the privacy law specialty exam, which will be administered first in October 2029. With that, happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Cody. Michelle, if you want to put the resolution up. Do we have any questions for Cody or comments or a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Trustee Stevens, second by Trustee Gore. Vote, please.
Barahona? Not present. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Good, not present. Gore?
Aye.
Grande? Grande, not present. Harrison?
Aye.
Huser?
Aye.
Jargello?
Aye.
Sewell?
Aye.
Stevens?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Cisneros?
Aye.
With 9 ayes and 0 nays, the motion passes.
All right, next item, 6.7, an update from the Office of Admissions. Donna and Tara Clark.
And Cody Hunanian.
And Cody. Thank you all. Well, please begin.
Tara, if you could put up the, Tara's not on yet, I don't think. Tara's got the slide deck, so we got to get her promoted. Great. At every board meeting, we give you an update on the Office of Admissions. I'm going to start with just some highlights from the performance data from the February 2026 bar exam. And then, because I think you've heard quite enough from me this afternoon, Tara will take over most of the rest of the presentation, and Cody will wrap up with the very last slide. Next slide, please, Tara. Again, just some high-level performance data from the February 2026 bar exam. The results, as I think you all know, were released on May 1st, so 2 weeks ago. The overall pass rate for the general bar exam was just under 31%. You all realize, of course, that the February bar exam pass rate is significantly lower than the July pass rate. Historically, though this is a decrease in that pass rate. For the attorney's exam, the pass rate was 57%. We had about just over 3,900 applicants who sat for the general bar exam. Interestingly, the number of first-time applicants declined in 2026 after experiencing year-over-year increases. However, or at the same time, the raw number of repeat applicants increased, or the number of repeat applicants increased by 22% between 2024 and 2026. Reason we're doing the comparison from 2024 to 2026, obviously, is the February 2025 exam, after all of the scoring adjustments that were applied, really was anomalous. We had a 65.3% pass rate, if memory serves, and so we were taking that out of comparative analyses. Repeat applicants comprise 37% of all applicants. which is an increase of 7 percentage points compared to 2024. And we think that information is important is one of the pieces of information that's important in understanding the decrease in the pass rate. Next slide, please. Another piece of information that's important in understanding the decrease in the pass rate is the makeup of those 3,931 applicants who sat for the bar exam. As you can see here, foreign attorneys made up the largest applicant group, and if you look at the bar chart on the right, you'll see that the pass rate for the foreign attorneys was 22%. The second highest cohort were those who were graduates from the California accredited law schools, and they had an 18.5% pass rate. So basically, approximately 1,750 of the 3,931 applicants, or 45% of the total applicants who sat for the exam, were from the foreign attorney cohort and the California accredited law school cohort, both of which had fairly low pass rates. So I just wanted to point that information out to you. U.S. attorneys had the highest pass rates, followed by applicants from California and California ABA schools and out-of-state ABA schools. Next slide. Taking a look now at how the pass rates worked across law school types. The highest pass rates were among California ABA-approved law schools, and that's true across all years and attempt statuses, meaning first-time applicants and repeat applicants, sort of across looking at these years. For 3 out of the 4 law school types represented here, California ABA, out-of-state ABA, California accredited law schools, and unaccredited, for 3 of the 4, the first-time test taker pass rates increased for all school types. For 3 out of the 4, the first-time test taker pass rates increased. For the 4th, that would be the California accredited law schools, where you see that the pass rate declined significantly. At the same time, for the unaccredited law schools, the pass rate for first-time applicants rose sharply with this February 2026 exam. So that's sort of looking at it across law schools. At the next slide, we take a look at it by race, ethnicity, and gender, and what the pass rates were. As you can see from the bar chart on the right, white applicants have the highest pass rate of all the racial and ethnic groups at 40.2%, and the male applicants had higher pass rates than the female applicants. And then taking a quick look on my last slide here at the trends in the pass rates by race and ethnicity. The first-time applicant pass rates increased from 2024 for all racial and ethnic groups other than white applicants, for whom it decreased for the first-time applicants. The repeat applicant pass rate declined for all groups from 2024 to the February 2026 bar exam. We are going to present some additional data on the pass rates at the June CBE meeting, and we'll do some additional analyses. This was obviously with the results just coming out on May 1st. We pulled together as much as we could at this time, but we'll be presenting to the CBE a more complete review of the pass rates by law school type, race, ethnicity, and applicant type. And with that, I will pass it over to Tara Clark.
And good afternoon. So briefly, we have an update on the July 2026 bar exam. So as you may recall, this application opened on March 1st. Applicants have until June 1st to apply. As of about an hour ago, we were at 8,635 applications, and up to 420 of those who'd used the fee waiver. So as a reminder, this is the final bar exam for applicants to use the fee waiver from the February 2025 exam, as well as for those to apply the score adjustment from the November exam. And this is just a brief overview for you of the breakdown of the seats we have available for this exam. We do still have seats available in Northern and Southern California. We do have some of our smaller sites, for example, the USC Galen Center. It only has 400 laptop seats. That one we won't see a lot of movement on, but as seats become available at the other test sites, applicants will be moved there, and they have until July 6th to request test center changes. Okay, and so we're going to move to the bar exam costs. So this was at Trustee Sewell's request from the last meeting. So here we have our preliminary expenses for the February 2026 exam. We've noted that they're preliminary since we used invoices versus our general ledger, which is our official record, since that is just not quite up to date yet. So we're trying to give you the best estimate that we have possible. And in a moment, we'll also look at the revenue for that exam. So you'll notice that our budgeted amounts for the expenses and the revenue were lower. So both the expenses and the revenue will be higher, and that was partially due to the higher number of applicants that's up for the exam. And then, as you may recall, at the end of last year, the board made the decision not to raise the exam fee for general bar exam applicants higher than the CPI increase. So that did mean that the anticipated costs for the exams were projected to exceed the revenue. And here also as well, I wanted to point out, as the Finance Committee heard earlier from Ms. Montoya Chica, because we had those higher applicant numbers as well as more exam sites than we anticipated, some of them being smaller, our exam room rental and our electrical costs were higher than we anticipated. Okay, and again, here is our preliminary revenue for the February exam. This is marked as preliminary since applicants do have until May 25th to request refunds due to a medical or other emergency that prevented them from sitting for the exam. But again, here you'll see that the preliminary revenue exceeds what we had budgeted initially. And this is just a compilation slide, so you can see it all together at once. And we will move to July. And so here we have our anticipated costs for July. So we are using maybe a high estimate for the applicants of 9,830. Whereas if we end up with only about 8,800 applicants, we still anticipate being over the revenue budget. Here you'll see as well that again, the exam room rental costs are a little bit higher. The electrical for this exam, we were not able to use Golden Gate University as a test and accommodation site. That's one that we've been able to use for the past several exams. They've been very inexpensive, so we've had to procure a hotel in San Francisco instead. And then the electrical costs, you'll see that some of those expenses are higher just since we have moved in our test and accommodation sites to some of the larger exam rooms, larger being 25 to 10 people, but it does require an electrical setup versus just one to two people plugging into a port. Okay, and so again, here we have our anticipated revenue for the July exam. This is using that same estimate, the 9,830 applicants. But so if that number again goes down, we do expect both the revenue and the anticipated expenses to go down, excuse me. And here's that same just summary slide for you so you can see it all together. And then we wanted to give you a quick update on the July 2028 bar exam, since this will be coinciding with the LA Olympic Games. So we have made great progress. You'll see for the standard sites, the laptop writers, we have some of our normal locations secured. So the grounds in Roseville, Oakland, Ontario Convention Center. Just a note on Ontario. So we are planning to limit those who can apply for that site to those in the local surrounding area. So those who have a zip code in that area, that's currently what we do for our San Diego location, since they tend to be smaller capacity. So we're going to just employ that same technique on the Ontario sites. We're currently exploring additional locations in Palm Springs and Riverside. If those don't pan out, then we'll go up a little bit further to Fresno and Bakersfield. We do know that there are some large event centers there that we may be able to secure. And then on the test and accommodation side, you'll see we have we're working out with our current facility to see if they are available, but we are in contact with them already in Sacramento. And then we do have Oakland and Weston St. Francis already on hold, as well as we'll have the TA space at the Ontario Convention Center. And then we do have the Doubletree Mission Valley in San Diego. So we do need a couple more sites for both standard and tested accommodations, but our team has really put a lot of effort into this just to make sure that we can get folks situated as well as possible, and trying to stay away from the really crowded downtown LA area. And before I hand it over to Cody, were there any questions on the slides that I went through? And apologize, I went through them kind of quickly due to the time.
I'm not seeing any question. Oh, go ahead.
I do, I'm sorry. So, thank you. I'm going to start with trying to understand. There's a lot of slides, so let me get the slide that I had a question on. Okay, the slide that is 6 of 21. No, is that it? That's not what I'm looking at. No, the slide that is 4 of 21. It has key findings on the left and key findings on the right.
Yes.
And I'm getting confused about it says foreign attorneys make up the largest applicant groups. And then on the left, on the right, U.S. attorneys look like I don't quite understand the meaning of these two columns. Right?
Sure. The chart on the left is the number of test takers from each group. The chart on the right is pass rates for each of the groups. And so that's where I was explaining that the two largest cohorts were the foreign attorneys and the California accredited law schools, and they had lower pass rates, and that explain some of the skewing of the overall lower pass rate for this exam.
Okay. I want to then talk about budget versus preliminary expenses. And here's, I love seeing these numbers of like, how are we doing with our estimates versus our actuals? And I hope we continue to do this. One thing I just want to point out, and I don't need the numbers now, but on the expenses, what is not on here is staffing expenses. There's a lot of state bar staff that's involved in this, and I'm saying this because I don't want people to look at this and say, oh gosh, the revenue for the February exam was over 6 million, and they only spent, less than 3. The state bar looks like it's, making a profit. I don't think that's the case. So I'm just saying that I think I want to make sure, even when you do this, even if you don't have the number, to just have a note that says the staff time has not yet been calculated, but it's there. That's all.
Yeah, that is always a misread that we've heard public commenters say,
Yeah.
that very issue. And so, yeah, these are the direct expenses. There are a lot of things that aren't included here.
Yeah.
And that's an appropriate note for a footnote, right? What it
That's all.
doesn't include the staff expenses, doesn't include the expenses for the consultants who assess testing accommodations,
Thank
right?
you.
All of those. So we'll add that as a footnote.
Okay,
going
that's
forward.
all. Thank you. But otherwise, it's good. Thank you.
Thank you. And handed it over to Cody.
Yeah, just a few brief updates from elsewhere in the Office of Admissions. First, we wanted to flag for the board that the first 2 law schools to achieve jointly accredited status have recently been approved, and there's several pending applications that staff are working through. This is important because jointly accredited status really introduces an entirely new approach for regulating our accredited law schools. Just as a reminder, jointly accredited status was created in 2022 when the law school rules were revised. The purpose of that change was to reduce the regulatory burden for law schools and to decrease the administrative time and cost for the state bar in situations where a law school is accredited by both the Committee of Bar Examiners and the state bar and by an outside accreditor recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. There was a recognition at that time that there was a lot of overlap between the oversight that the state bar was conducting and the oversight that their other institutional accreditor was doing. So this is the first two law schools will be monitoring this very closely. I do want to just note, because it's very important, that our jointly accredited schools still remain subject to all of the state bar's requirements. They must continue to comply with our rules, submit annual compliance reports, and provide communications between the school and other accreditors. Really, the big change for the law schools is that they no longer have to undergo inspections by the state bar team, because they will be inspected by their institutional accreditor, and they'll have to share with the state bar the findings of those inspections. Second, on the law school front, the Committee of Bar Examiners recently approved 2 new registered unaccredited law schools. Both schools are expected to begin operating in summer and fall of 2026 as correspondence law schools using asynchronous online instruction. This has been many years in the making. We're continuing to see more online programs. I want to flag this for the board because what I find important about this update is that these schools are demonstrative of trends we are seeing in the legal education space, where we are finding that schools are exploring new methods of instruction, and they're also exploring new untapped markets for students. So one of these schools is going to be using a very novel rotational curriculum model in which students will take one course. They'll have 4 subjects that they're studying. They'll take one course each week, and then it'll rotate on this 4-week schedule. That's new, and we're going to monitor that closely. And then perhaps most interesting is that the other school is developing a program to recruit, a JD program that's purpose is to recruit students outside of California, and particularly international students who can benefit professionally from earning a JD degree from a California accredited law school, but who have no intention or few have intentions of actually becoming licensed attorneys in California. That is new. That's a growing area and something we'll continue to track. And then my last update related to our item just moments ago, the board just approved the standards for the new privacy law specialty area. The CBLS is really interested in playing a more proactive role in identifying new specialty areas. And as I mentioned earlier, particularly those that support public protection and that address access to justice issues. So at its March 2026 meeting, CBLS began to explore 3 new areas, possible new areas: personal injury law, healthcare law, and consumer law. They then directed staff to continue researching personal injury law and consumer law, and we'll continue to have a discussion about those 2 areas at its June meeting. This is notable because in December of 2025, CBLS updated its process for exploring new specialty areas, with one of its goals being to emphasize more involvement, or at least more communication, with the Board of Trustees. And so we wanted to bring that update to you today. One last note, and we'll be sure to flag it when there's more discussion here in front of the board, but today's decision regarding privacy law, I think, will likely inform the timing of any future specialty areas. Staff anticipates a significant implementation effort for this new privacy law specialty area, and believes that should be a consideration with regard to the timing of any new possible initiatives. So that's an update, and I think the board should anticipate more information on new specialty areas in meetings later this year.
Great. Thank you very much. This is a discussion item. Any comments, Trustee Solel?
I know we're getting late in the day, and just two quick things for me. First of all, thank you to the staff team for accommodating my request to display some of the totals here on revenues and also expenditures. I appreciate that. My first question is, I just need a reminder. Folks who had taken the February bar exam, they are no longer, there's not a grandfathering in of them at this particular point in time. That sort of expiration date is now passed. Is that right?
So if I think I understand what you're asking. So from the February 2025 bar exam, you granted a waiver of costs for people who were either withdrew from the exam or did not achieve a passing score. The last time they can use that is this July 2026 bar exam. So the bar exam that people are applying for now. Also, the Supreme Court extended to this July 2026 bar exam the ability to use the scoring adjustment for people who took that November special bar study that we did and who met the threshold, which was getting 28 of the 49 questions right. They are entitled to a scoring adjustment. Again, this July 2026 exam is the last time that adjustment will be applicable, because people have had, for that, the February 25 exam, July 25, February 26, and we'll have the July 26 exam to use that. So 4 exams for that and 3 exams to use the waiver.
Got it. Second question real quick is that I think since my time on the board, I think we have, I don't think we've ever been able to really pinpoint the number of test takers, within, I would say, a reasonable sort of degree of statistical sort of significance. And is that just an inevitability that we just never can seem to sort of anticipate the number of test takers?
So I think we were considerably further off on this estimate for our 2026 applicants, right? So as part of our budget process, we do an estimate of how many exam takers there will be, and that drives the estimates for everything else. And so we are working with our Office of Research and Statistics to help us hone our estimation skills. We hope to get closer. I think the one saving grace, if you will, is that when our expenses are higher than anticipated because we have underestimated the number of test takers, that means that our revenue is also higher than anticipated. So that's a good thing. It's bad that our estimates were so off, but we are going to continue to hone that. We have to keep abreast of changes. We've heard now that for the past 2 years, I think, are the highest numbers. I've got notes on this somewhere. Highest numbers of enrollment at ABA law schools, which will certainly contribute to the highest percentage of people sitting for our bar exam. Certainly in July exams. Unfortunately, the unfortunately sounds weird when I move this sentence. So if the court were to adopt the board's recommendation for the next gen UBE, I think this is where the unfortunately comes in. Unfortunately, I think our estimates may be further off for a little while, because we won't understand how the portability issue may affect how many people are going to apply to sit for the exam. So we're going to have to play with our numbers a little bit, and figure out what our formula ultimately is for that. But again, the saving grace is that when our estimates are off, it equally affects the revenue and the expenses.
Any other questions? All right, this is a discussion item. Thank you very much, everyone. Next on the agenda is the review and approval of the 2026 annual report on access issues at bar exam test sites as required by Business and Professions Code Section 6060.10, presented by Lisa and Maria.
I'm going to start this, if you can
And Donna.
promote Lisa Chavez. So we're going to go quickly here. You have a comprehensive slide deck that was provided in the materials along with the proposed report to the legislature. I'm going to introduce the item, and then Lisa is going to talk to a couple of the key slides. So 2 years ago, the legislature added to state statute a reporting requirement on access issues that are raised by examinees at bar exam test sites. This is our first report that is required under that new statutory requirement. The report focuses on the July 2025 and February 2026 bar exams. The report does include some data about testing accommodations for the February 2025 bar exam, but does not include an analysis of the issues raised by those with testing accommodations during that exam. Those issues have been well documented. They have been investigated as part of the privileged review that was conducted by the Human Resources Research Organization, HUMRO, contracted with by the State Bar. And the issues were very unique. They were anomalous to the February 2025 exam, and so would not be instructive for future analysis and changes of what we need to do. I would note that in the interest of full transparency and to avoid the risk of mischaracterization of any of the complaints that were received about accommodations at test site, this report includes more information than is required by statute. We report on both complaints that we received from examinees as well as requests that they put in, and this is explained in the report in detail. Requests that they received, and we lump these together, these complaints and requests, and refer to them jointly as issues, not wanting to call something an issue and having somebody feel like that really was a complaint. Additionally, the report broadly characterizes those things that are characterizes as related to granted testing accommodations all issues about noise and distractions by all complaints and issues about noise and distractions that were raised by examinees who were granted as a testing accommodation, a private room, a semi-private room, or a reduced distraction room. I raise this because not all accommodations, not all applicants who were granted that type of accommodation for a private room, semi-private room, or reduced distraction room were granted that for disabilities that relate to sort of needing to keep down the noise or keep them free of distractions. But in the interest, again, of over-reporting, people reporting issues as opposed to under-reporting, we characterized all of those as relating to the granted testing accommodation. Slide 3 in the deck has more information on these particular areas in which we were more expansive than was required by statute. And now I want to turn to Lisa Chavez, who will highlight a few slides from the deck that relate specifically to the statutory reporting requirements. Lisa and Maria?
Hi, good afternoon, trustees. Let me just pull up my deck here. I'm here with Maria Rapier, and we are delighted to share with you the results of our report. Just everyone see my... And what we're going to do is, you have this comprehensive deck, but we're going to go ahead and just focus on the key findings from the July exam, because the February exam, February 2026 exams results are pretty much show the same patterns. And then, so we're going to skip ahead to July, and then we'll get through this quickly, and then Maria and I are available to answer any questions you have. So let's start with let's see, here we go. So let's start with the volume of our testing accommodations. This slide's really interesting because it shows us at this point, at least for the last 3 exams, what % of all applicants had at least one testing accommodation. And as you can see here is that we're seeing an increase in the percentage of applicants who have a testing accommodation. It's always good to compare February to February. So we see that there was an increase from 10.8% up to 12.7%. But actually 13% of our applicants, of all people who took the exam in July 2025, had a testing accommodation. That was 13%. This slide talks about the types of accommodations that our applicants receive. The most common accommodation granted is extended time or modified schedule. Room-based accommodations were also frequently granted, along with medical needs and rest accommodations. So here we have data for all 3 exams analyzed for the period. But here's really what was required by statute, which was an accounting of the % of applicants that raised at least one issue. So again, here's the data for July. And so the pie chart shows that the majority of the 1,038 applicants that had at least one testing accommodation, the majority of them did not raise any issue. And again, as Donna explained, issues are either complaints or requests. So that's 7% right there that did have at least one issue. That amounted to 72 applicants. What this figure on the right says is, tell us more about these 72 applicants. And this is the percent of the applicants that had raised at least one issue, further disaggregated on whether or not that issue was related to a granted accommodation. And the majority of the 72 applicants only raised one issue, and it was unrelated to their testing accommodation. That's 68%. So what this chart does is now it shifts the unit of analysis to the actual issue. So I just said to you that the majority had at least one issue. Majority had only one issue, but some had more than one. So that amounted to 86 issues across the 72 applicants that raised at least one issue. So if you look, now we've shifted to unit analysis, it's 86 issues. The majority of the issues raised were unrelated to a testing accommodation. 20 issues were related to a granted testing accommodation. And then how this figure works is you take those 20 issues, you head over to the right, and what this chart is saying is explaining what those accommodations were. And so out of the 20 issues raised, 8 were related to room-based accommodations. 6 were related to extended time or extended schedule. And so room accommodations, all of them were related to people having a complaint about noise and distractions that they experienced. And the next biggest category was extended time or modified schedule. And this typically pertained to people complaining that they felt that they didn't receive all the time that they were allotted. And then this is a quick chart, I'll just go through it quickly. This is really describing the nature of the complaints. And so here on the right, here on the left is, again, like the majority of those 20 issues that were related to testing accommodation or, again, to noise and distractions. And here on the right, this is actually describing the outcomes of the issues raised. And the majority of the issues raised were resolved by staff with a prompt adjustment or a fix or some type of response provided. And then the last analysis we did was, again, required by statute, was to explain where the issues were concentrated. And of the 20 issues that were related to a testing accommodation, at least in July, 40% occurred at our State Bar office in Los Angeles. And then the next biggest was at a hotel in Anaheim. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and skip to our conclusion that we draw in our report. This is just results for February that show the exact same results. The summary is that our conclusion is that most applicants with testing accommodations did not raise any issues during the July 25 or February 26 exams. Among those that did raise an issue, the majority raised just one issue, and most issues raised were unrelated to their granted testing accommodation. Among the issues related to the testing accommodations, the largest share was for applicants that had a room-based accommodation. And then finally, most issues that occurred were concentrated at 3 sites, whereas in February, the issues were a little bit more broadly distributed across the different sites. So just want to share with you that we presented this report to the CBE as a process, and they approved the report, and they recommend that the board adopt and direct staff to transmit it to the legislature, which is due by July 1st. Thank you very much. Maria and I are here to answer any questions you may have about the analyses in the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I'll just make one clarification. When I said that we counted all of the noise and distraction complaints as related to the testing accommodation, my memory is that we accepted a handful because we received a complaint that there was a dog barking outside, or a complaint about a parade that was happening sort of outside. We restricted those as related to anything that was happening in the testing site. We thought that was an appropriate limitation.
If there are no questions, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
And a second. Motion by Trustee Soel, second by Trustee Gore. Vote, please.
Barahona not present. Buenaventura.
Aye.
Good not present. Gore.
Aye.
Grande not present. Harrison. Harrison not present. Huser.
Aye.
Jargello.
Aye.
Sowell.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
Cisneros.
Aye.
With 8 ayes and 0 nays, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll conclude our list of items for today and reconvene this meeting here in this room tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.